I'm here a year later after the fire, and although they almost lost their landmark, world-famous entrance, they haven't lost their fight. At Gatorland, Katie Johnson, UCF Nightly News. The suspect pulled her off the street, put a knife to her throat, then dragged her through this brushy area, took her back here, and attacked her. What if you could protect your house from a fire even when you're not there? A test you have to see to believe. The story coming up. Tropical Storm Noel is thousands of miles away from us here in Cocoa Beach, but as you can tell, the winds are picking up and the erosion is so bad that the shoreline is actually coming up onto the boardwalk I'm standing on. The Knights will face their toughest non-conference schedule in the history of the men's basketball program, but players say that they're looking forward to the competition. Students of the Campus Activity Board take advantage of the accessibility of Facebook to the UCF student body and create sites like this one for an upcoming concert where more than 800 students have already been invited. Thousands of people are still without homes in Southern California because of a fire that destroyed more than 500,000 acres. The Red Cross right here in Orlando sent 7 local volunteers to California to help with the recovery efforts. The volunteer group is meeting with families to evaluate their needs, work in shelters, and distribute food and water throughout the affected areas. Thank you, Jessica. On Tuesday, a grand jury indicted 17-year-old Hugo Terry and 19-year-old Davin Smith with the murder of Alfred Gordon. The two are charged with first-degree murder with a firearm and attempted robbery with a firearm. Police aren't releasing the picture of 17-year-old Terry, although he will be charged as an adult. Police say Gordon was killed returning to his car after withdrawing money from an ATM. Live in the newsroom, I'm Katie Johnson, UCF Nightly News. Craigslist.org is one of the most used sites on the web today, but it may not be the safest option. Nightly News reporter Heidi Rodriguez tells us about some of the problems people run into using sites like Craigslist. Hi, I'm Katie Johnson with your UCF Sports Update. The Knights try to bounce back after a disappointing loss to USF, taking on the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes at home. Tulsa scored early in the first with a touchdown. UCF responded on the next drive with a 22-yard touchdown run from quarterback Kyle Israel. In the second quarter, UCF was trailing 14-10 when Kevin Smith scored his first touchdown of the day to take the lead, 17-14. Smith continued his impressive performance into the fourth quarter with a 44-yard touchdown to put the game out of reach. Smith gained a total of 180 yards on the ground and a total of 4 touchdowns for the day. UCF went on to beat Tulsa by a final score of 44-23. ESPN will be covering UCF's next game this Sunday at Southern Miss. Coach O'Leary says the upcoming game against Southern Miss could be critical.
When we have to move over there, he was crying, telling me he doesn't want to move over there.
This woman is describing the day she moved to Dunbar Village with her 12-year-old son, a move that led to a night that will haunt them forever.
I thought I was going to die.
On June 18th, at least 10 men, some armed, broke into their home and attacked the two. All of the men raped the woman.
Some of them have sex with me twice. Some have sex with me 3 times.
To make matters much worse, they forced her to perform oral sex on her own son. The attackers told her son to have sex with her. When he didn't comply, they beat him.
And after that, I told him that it doesn't matter. To save your life, try to do it.
The victim and her son yelled throughout the attack that lasted almost 3 hours. And although this apartment is only about 3 feet away from where the attack actually happened, help never came.
Nobody even called police for us. And those people in the apartment one, even if they're talking to themselves in their apartment, I can hear everything they say.
Once the men were gone, the two needed to get to the hospital. After making sure the coast was clear, they walked barefooted to Good Samaritan Hospital, where she was still too scared to call the police.
We didn't want to do it because we know they can still come to Good Sam and kill us.
Police have only caught 3 of the 10 men who will forever cause this woman to regret moving to this neighborhood, a move her son may never forgive her for making.
I have to try to talk to him every day. He's so angry. He said we should never move to Dunbar Village. If we didn't move there, that would never happen to us.
I have to say something. I can't be silent.
And she wasn't. Deidre Linka of Code Pink Orlando, along with several other local organizations, made sure their message was heard. Hundreds of people of all ages have gathered here at Lake Eola for one cause, to stop the war. But some have their own personal reasons for why they want it to be over. Patricia LeClaire's son is part of a striker brigade in Baghdad. LeClaire says she's been against the war since it began.
You know, I think it's a diplomatic and humanitarian disaster. But now that we are there, we need to find a way to resolve our involvement in it that safeguards our troops.
For another protester, the war hits close to home as well. Reverend Don Thompson's grandson was critically injured last year while guarding a CBS News crew. After an IED explosion went off, he suffered shrapnel wounds to his knee and head.
I want this war to be over so the other troops will be brought home alive and not crippled.
Organizers say that rallies like this aren't enough to end the war, but they help in getting the message across.
And until we have everyone in Orlando and everyone in Central Florida and everyone in Florida in the streets, they're not going to believe that we're going to do anything. We have to stop this war. We have to.
In Orlando, Katie Johnson, UCF Nightly News.
UCF! It's too hot. One guy almost passed out already.
With the high temperatures and humidity, it was very hot. And with many tailgating before the afternoon game, fans began to feel the heat.
I was really thirsty.
With over 45,000 fans, only 28,000 bottles of water, and no drinking fountains, a major problem arose at the first home game.
They ran out of water.
And this led to another dilemma.
The biggest problem we've had is dehydration.
Paramedics treated over 60 fans for heat-related issues, and 18 went to the hospital. Many fans trying to stay hydrated say they waited more than 30 minutes to buy bottled water. But they had another way to cool off.
Water stations like the one behind me are passing out free cups of water to fans, but some aren't happy with the fact that there are less than 5 of them throughout the entire stadium.
The lines to get free water is about 20 minutes long. We're dying. We're dying.
If you had more water stations and more concession stands, maybe that they could possibly have less lines or shorter lines.
We spoke with UCF officials and they say they heard the fans' complaints. Officials tell us when the crowds arrive for this weekend's game against Memphis, the stadium should have at least 10 new water fountains to help fans stay hydrated. At Bright House Stadium, Katie Johnson, UCF Nightly News.
I first started taking them because I wasn't sleeping very much and I had trouble going to bed at night.
This UCF student, who wants to remain anonymous, is describing why she chose to use sleeping pills. She suffered from a problem that doctors say up to 1 in 5 people deal with, sleep deprivation.
I get really anxious before I went to sleep, or even when it just became nighttime. I just got really nervous that I would not be able to fall asleep, and that would make it worse.
Anxiety is just one of the factors leading to sleep deprivation, which is very common in the college population. Doctors attribute it to abnormal sleep cycles, alcohol and caffeine usage, and change of exercise patterns. Dr. Michael Dyken of the Student Health Center says stress also adds to the problem.
So an awful lot of students are under stress academically, financially, so when you put all those things together, sleep deprivation is very prevalent.
Dr. Dyken recommends getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night for good health. He says not getting an adequate amount of sleep can not only drain you physically, but impair you mentally as well. For those who have a hard time getting some shut-eye, Dr. Dyken recommends getting into the habit of going to bed at the same time every night, avoiding caffeine close to bedtime, and exercising during the day. He tries to stay away from prescribing sleeping pills unless it's absolutely necessary.
Because like my physician, that was like last resort for us.
At UCF, Katie Johnson, UCF